The story begins with a young man, Leo, who moves back to his childhood home in the foggy mountains of Montana after his mother passes away. He's 22, lonely, and grieving. His mother was a kind but mysterious woman who used to whistle a specific haunting melody every night to call him in for dinner. Whistle sound effect. The house is filled with her things, old sewing machines, dried flowers, and mirrors covered in black cloth. Leo starts noticing strange things. Every night at 3 a.m., the temperature in his room drops. He hears the floorboards creaking outside his door, just like his mother used to do when she checked on him. One night, he finds a dinner plate on the kitchen table. It's his favorite meal, steaming hot. But he's the only one in the house. The Forbidden Basement, 30530. Leo finds a diary his mother kept. The entries are disturbing. She wasn't just whistling for him, she was whistling to keep the guest away. She wrote about a dark entity that had been trying to take Leo since he was a baby. Her whistle was a protective seal. Leo hears a scratching sound from the basement. He goes down and finds a hidden room. On the walls, there are hundreds of photos of him sleeping, taken from angles that shouldn't be possible, from inside the ceiling, from under the bed. He realizes his mother wasn't just being protective, she was fighting something invisible every single night. And now that she's gone, the seal is broken. The shadow in the mirror, 538. The haunting escalates. Leo sees a figure in the mirrors that looks exactly like his mother, but her face is distorted, her mouth sewn shut. She's pointing at the front door, screaming silently. He thinks his mother is haunting him, but he's wrong. That night, the guest finally shows itself. It's a tall, faceless creature that mimics voices. It starts whistling his mother's melody, but the tune is slightly off. Deeper, more sinister. The creature corners Leo in the attic. As it reaches for him with long needle-like fingers, Leo realizes the distorted woman in the mirror wasn't trying to scare him. She was trying to warn him that the creature was already behind him. The final sacrifice, 8-10 all. In the final moments, as the creature is about to strike, the old radio in the room bursts into life. His mother's voice comes through, loud and clear, whistling the perfect, pure melody. The creature screams in agony as the sound vibrates through the house. The walls of the house begin to bleed the same black ink from his mother's diary. Leo realizes his mother didn't just leave him, she trapped her soul in the house to stay his guardian forever. The video ends with Leo sitting in the dark, the house finally silent. He picks up a whistle and starts to play. He knows as long as he whistles, he's safe. But his breath is running out. The final shot, Leo's reflection in the window. Behind him, his mother's spirit is standing, her hands on his shoulders, but her eyes are now just empty black holes. She saved him, but now he can never leave the house. The sirens started wailing at 2:45 a.m. A massive, unnatural storm was ripping through our small town in Oklahoma. The wind sounded like 1,000 screaming souls, tearing the shingles off the roof and shattering the windows. I was 22, living in the old house my mother had left me after she passed away 2 years ago. Everyone told me to go to the basement, but I felt a strange, paralyzing cold that had nothing to do with the weather. As the house shook, the cellar door flew open. But it wasn't the wind. A dark, towering figure emerged from the darkness of the basement. A storm eater. My mother used to tell me stories about these entities that travel inside tornadoes, looking for souls to drag into the void. I thought they were just legends to keep me inside during storms. I was wrong. The creature had no face, only a void where its heart should be, and its fingers were like long, jagged shards of obsidian. I tried to run, but the floorboards turned into liquid shadow, trapping my feet. The creature loomed over me, its breath smelling of ozone and ancient decay. Just as its cold, clawed hand reached for my chest to pull out my life force, a deafening crack of lightning hit the house. Suddenly, the air didn't feel cold anymore. It felt warm. A blinding white light erupted from my mother's old rocking chair in the corner. I saw her, not as the sick woman I remembered, but as a glowing, ethereal warrior. She wasn't just a spirit, she was made of pure light. She stepped between me and the creature, her arms outstretched, not him. Her voice echoed, louder than the thunder outside. "You cannot have my son." The storm eater shrieked, a sound so high it shattered every mirror in the house. My mother grabbed the creature's wrists, and I watched as the black shadows of the monster began to burn under her touch. The storm outside intensified, trees were being uprooted, and the roof was being ripped away, but inside the circle of my mother's light, I was safe. The struggle was violent. The creature tried to pull her into the shadows, but she held on, her light growing brighter and brighter until it was impossible to look at. She turned her head to me for one final second. Her eyes were full of the same love she had when she used to tuck me in as a child. She whispered, "Live, Solomon, live for both of us." With a final explosive burst of light, she dragged the creature back into the basement and slammed the door. A massive bolt of lightning struck the house at that exact moment, and everything went black. When I woke up, the storm had passed. The house was a wreck, the roof was gone, and the walls were cracked. I crawled to the basement door and opened it. It was just an empty, dusty cellar. But lying on the bottom step was my mother's old locket, the one she was buried with. I opened it, and instead of her picture, there was a small, glowing ember that felt warm to the touch. The storm took everything I owned, but it couldn't take me. Every time a storm rolls in now, I don't feel afraid. I sit in my chair, hold that warm locket, and listen. Because in the middle of the thunder, I can still hear her soft voice, telling me that as long as she is watching, the shadows will never win. The sun in the Texas desert was a merciless beast. It was 115 degrees, and the heat waves were dancing off the asphalt like ghosts. My mother, Maria, was out there working in the construction fields. She was 45, but she looked 60. Her hands were cracked and bleeding from hauling bricks, and her skin was burnt to a deep bronze. She did it all for me, to pay for my college and to keep our small, broken home running. One afternoon, the heat became unbearable. I brought her some water, and I saw her leaning against a half-finished wall, gasping for air. But she wasn't looking at the sun. She was staring at a dark, shimmering patch of shadow on the ground, a shadow that didn't belong to any building or person. It was moving toward her like a predator. "Go home, Leo," she whispered, her voice parched. "The sun is hungry today. Don't let it see you." I didn't understand. I thought she was hallucinating from the heat. But that night, the fever took her. As she lay in her bed, her skin felt like it was still under the midday sun. She was burning from the inside. At exactly 3 a.m., the room filled with the smell of scorched earth. I saw a figure standing in the corner, a tall skeletal being made of concentrated heat and solar fire. It was the noonday demon, a spirit that claims those who work too long under its gaze. It reached out a hand made of glowing embers toward my heart. I was frozen, the air in my lungs turning into steam. Suddenly, my mother stood up. She looked radiant, her burns turned into a golden armor. She grabbed the demon's hand and the room exploded in a flash of white light. "You took my sweat, you took my blood," she roared, her voice like a desert wind. "But you will not take my son's future." She pushed the entity back into the wall, her own body turning into a shield of cool mist. The demon shrieked as it evaporated under her touch. The last thing I saw was my mother's smile, a cool, refreshing smile that felt like the first rain after a long drought. She collapsed back into the bed, her body finally cold. The doctor said it was heat stroke, but I knew better. When I went back to the construction site to pick up her tools, I found her footprints in the sand. Next to hers were the scorched black marks of the demon, but they stopped exactly where she had stood to protect me. She worked in the sun all her life so that I could live in the shade. Now, every time the sun gets too hot, I feel a cool breeze on my neck, as if someone is holding an umbrella over me. She is still working, still protecting, and still making sure her only son never has to feel the burn again.